So welcome everybody and welcome to Jane Parish, the County Safeguarding Officer. This morning, Jane is going to start the meeting, so over to you, Jane.
Thanks everyone, and thanks for joining us so early. Let's hope it's nice and sunny where you all are, and it's not like the storms that we had yesterday, which were quite horrendous, weren't they? And everything. Stuart Parsons here as well, who is the Regional Safeguarding Officer, and he's going to kick off first, and then I'm going to follow up with probably the most boring thing that everybody in the world ever thinks about is risk assessments, you know. And I will sort of be going through some that, you know, some tips, hints and tips for you in relation to risk assessments. And there will be some generic risk assessment tips, but also obviously from the safeguarding point of view, because obviously that's what the whole coffee morning is about. We're just going to go through some IT sort of manoeuvres here, because Stuart's sitting next to me, and he's going to come and swap seats with me so he can share his slides on the screen, and then I'll come back and take over in terms of mine, if that's all. If you could bear with us while we just swap chairs.
Good morning, everyone. Just bear with us. We're just trying to get the slides.
Janice is going to do that. Janice,
Are you doing the slides, Janice?
Do you want me to do the slides, yeah?
yeah.
Quick introduction as the slides are being loaded. As it said, I'm Stuart Parsons. I'm from the LTA Regional Safeguarding team. It is a pleasure to be here with you. It's nice to see so many people. And it's a great opportunity for me to engage with so many on one occasion. As you can appreciate, it does take a time to get around the clubs and meet with yourselves. So really, really pleased to meet you and be here today. Yeah. From the outset, you will have my details come up, my email address. If you do have issues going forward, you can contact me. I'll always get back to you. And there's also the email addresses there for Stuart, who I know is on the call, and Billy, who I will promote. They are our Sport Active Partnership Welfare Officers. They are doing a fantastic job in sport, promoting safeguarding, engaging with not only tennis, paddle, but other sports as well. Great resource, and they offer some great training as well. So again, if you've got issues, their email addresses are up there as well for you to contact. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a quick overview of what is happening in your county. As I said, I'm the Regional Safeguarding Officer, so I cover for the LTA, Middlesex, Essex now, a new county, yourselves, Surrey, Middlesex, Essex, and yourselves, yes. So 4 counties. They are the busiest counties in the United Kingdom, that region. Because of the demographics, we've got such a high density of clubs. It is commercially more competitive, a lot more volunteers. So, yeah, safeguarding is at the forefront of what we do, and we get more safeguarding referrals within our region than anywhere else in the country. As a region, we normally get 400 referrals. Sorry, as a LTA get about 400 referrals, safeguarding referrals a year. As a region, we get 100 referrals, 97, 102 in the last couple of years. So that's a lot of referrals. And when I say referrals, they are referrals that are meaningful and will involve child services, police action, or indeed LTA investigation and action. So you can see the issues that we have are reflective of what we have in society as well, and other sports. Breaking it down, as I said, as a region, we normally get around 100. Kent, as a county, I've got some figures up there. We normally you're normally around, or this year, about 20 referrals we've received this year to date. which is really good, and they're coming down. The LTA minimum standards has been in place for nearly 7 years now, promoting that, and there is a belief, and there is I say hope as well, that the work we are doing has brought confidence into tennis and paddle, and people are able to report concerns, but there's a greater awareness, there's a greater safeguard and resilience within our sport. As you can see there, I've got some figures there. Back in 22, it was 32 referrals received, 23, 48, and 43 last year. But this year we're definitely lower, and that is reflective across the country as well. So that can only be a good thing. Looking at these referrals then, who is our greatest perpetrator? Where are our issues? Parents, coaches, and now children on children. Social media is a real issue. And I'm just going to talk a bit more about each of those categories. Parents, quite often, their hopes and their dreams are far greater than their children's. And we see it especially in competition season, where children are taken to many, many competitions, and emotionally and physically, the children cannot cope. And so this results in parental frustration. I can almost see the template referral now. After competition, in car park, child is either physically hit or shouted at. So we've got emotional abuse there. From our perspective, we're doing a lot more education with parents. We're trying to engage with parental Facebook groups. We've actually had a proactive campaign this year to attend competitions, to engage with parents. We had an initial objective to attend up 100 competitions throughout the country. And the feedback that we're providing will formulate a proactive campaign for next year. So that's parents. And also I'd say, I should mention in performance scenarios as well, parents can be a real issue, pushing their children, abusing the officials. There's all sorts of issues that are arising out of the performance world as well. And again, we've looked at that. There's an education video going out to parents within performance programs. And indeed, I spoke to parents last night at a forum here at Bromley as well, at the regional performance centre here. Coaches, I will say coaches are coaches. They will breach safeguarding standards. They forget their position of trust, and especially the younger coaches now, aged 24 and under, who are coming through, they forget their professional relationships. They forget about their engagement with junior members in the clubs, and it is an issue. And again, we're looking at education in their particular training with the coaches now. We're trying to put a stronger emphasis on safeguarding, all aspects of the safeguarding, reminding them their code of conduct. And also you're going to hear about risk assessments, and it's a good idea to bring that in now. Coaches doing risk assessments about the programs that they are running and the issues that they face. So we're doing a lot more with coaches at this time. I mentioned children. Children, abuse child on child, especially around social media. It's not only in sport, it's in education, it's everywhere. Social media is a problem. Again, we're going to look at programs of education with children. We're going to use our Young Person's Welfare Ambassador scheme, the children who got involved there, to put out some various videos and some promotion material around that. That is going to be an emerging problem, and the control of social media is difficult. Major organisations, major governments can't control it. So We can only do what we can and the best we can, and that's through education at this time. So they're the three main perpetrators. Emerging things, again, within safeguarding: paddle, the rise and growth of paddle. The sport is different, the demographics are different. I've been to paddle venues recently, and you will see a pop-up bar, you will see alcohol being served, you will have loud music there, you will have, in competitions, there are children who are under 18 engaged in parental competition, older adult competitions. It's something that we have got to get grips with. There was a meeting at the LTA 2 weeks ago now. It was called a clinical meeting, and it was to drill down on what we need to do with paddle. LTA have only recently taken over the governance of paddle. Is it 18 months or so? There is a lot to do. It is different. And while I'm talking about paddle, being honest with you, the resilience, safeguarding resilience at paddle venues is not as it is in tennis. It's taken us 7 years to get where we are in tennis, but with paddle it's lower. I pull up on the screen there, RSOs, that's registered sex offenders. We have identified, and it is that we have got a greater number of registered sex offenders appearing in the sport of paddle. And it's a hard issue to address, because not everyone knows that they're a registered sex offender. Most of our information is coming from other members within paddle clubs or persons attending paddle are giving us information about people. We then have to address that issue. And it is about risk assessments, it's about challenging the person, it's about liaising with their protection officers to ascertain what their conditions are of their sexual harm prevention order, because every registered sex offender should have one of those. It's a lot of work that's involved, but it is a threat, because it's not only a threat to children that might be at the club, but there's an organisational threat with regards to registered sex offender being at a venue, and it can bring some negative media, negative media to your club. So just to make you aware of that, if you have that situation, there's a wealth of advice and dedicated advice from the LTA, and certainly you can contact me in what you must do. I've already mentioned child social media abuse. As I've said, that is an emerging threat. So they're the trends, they're the numbers. What are we doing as a norm, as an unregistered regional safeguarding officer? What are we doing? The venue safeguarding standards. I will conduct a safeguarding review at a venue. We normally do, I've got 4 counties, and I normally do between 12 and 15 visits, conducting full reviews to your venues a year. That full review requires your engagement. We send you a self-assessment. That means you've got to look at your policies, you've got the requisite policies in place, your safeguarding awareness at your club. What is your promotion? What are you doing? Are your newsletters, are they containing safeguarding promotion? And that goes with the culture as well. What is the culture of the club? We send out a survey that determines and can tell us, which we will share with clubs, information about what safeguarding promotion is in place, what policies you've got in place, what good practice you've got in place. We also look at the staff and volunteer qualifications. Every welfare officer should have a DBS and have undertaken safeguarding training within the last 3 years. Coaches, all coaches level 2 and above, need to be accredited with the LTA. That means they've got their training. That means they've got their DBS, that means they've got safeguarding in place, they've undertaken first aid, and that means they've got the appropriate insurances in place as well. Coaches under level 2, level 1 and below, and it includes tennis hitters and everyone else that's included in the delivery of tennis and paddle, they should have as a minimum a DBS and undertaken safeguarding training as well. We also then look at the physical attributes to a venue. Have you got any areas that need mitigation? Have you got any particular problems that need addressing? We can suggest or come up with ideas, or indeed we can liaise with other agencies that might be able to help you as well. So a full review is comprehensive. It's 59 categories. You might say it's a lot of work for a club to do. You will get 6 weeks notice, and then the whole process will take probably 12 weeks to complete from the time you receive that self-assessment to you yourselves receiving a report, giving you an indication of what you've done or any recommendations that can be made. That review does include a survey that we ask you to send out, comes to us, and then we share the results with yourselves, and we expect the committee to undertake in their safeguarding training as well. So that's a lot of work, and I appreciate volunteers. People join clubs to play tennis, and suddenly they've got this wealth of bureaucracy, as some people say, a process to complete. But it is vital. Once you've done it, it will put your club on a very good standing, and will take you forward, not with the knowledge that you've got safeguarding resilience within your club as well. So any questions about that, please contact me. Also, what we do when we're in an area, making best use, proportionate use of our time, best use of our time, and geographically. If I'm in an area to visit or undertake a full review, I would go other clubs, and especially within the southeast, there's always many clubs nearby, and conduct a venue health check. That is a snapshot of the safeguarding that you have in place. And indeed, I will look at your, if you've got a welfare officer poster up, that the welfare officer is suitably trained, that the coaches are appropriately trained, and that there's a safeguarding policy in place. So there's about 8 characteristics of that review. You're then written to informing you that I visited, or the regional safeguarding officer has visited your particular area, and again, we will provide you with relevant recommendations within that smaller report. But we also, at that time, require you to have do a survey and for the committee to undertake the training. Should a venue not respond to the health check and there are issues remain, we then will ask you to undertake a full safeguarding review. Fortunately, to date, I haven't been in that position, and I have to say all the clubs in Kent have engaged, and I'm grateful for that engagement as well. All the relevant statistics and numbers are down within your county. You have got excellent resources here. Now, your county association really takes safeguarding seriously. You've got Jane here, really good county safeguarding officer, and personally, I'm really grateful for the work that she does. And I will speak regularly about issues where she can help me and I can help her. So yeah, good county, we're in a good place, but safeguarding, you can never leave it alone. It's always got to be an epic topic within your club. Happy to take questions before we go on. I know Jane's going to talk to you about risk assessments. Just a brief intro, really important, something that we look at when we do a review of a club. And it's coming more and more to the forefront of civil litigation now, where there's malpractice, there's negligence, and when things go wrong, they will go wrong. And one of the first things they will always ask for is the risk assessment, because that shows people what planning and preparation has gone into an activity. And we're all bound, we've all got a duty of care, and we're bound by legislation to make our places safe places to play and put some consideration into risk. If you don't do anything, something will happen. If you do something, it rarely happens. So it is a really important topic that Jane's going to talk to you about. Very fast overview of safeguarding. Any questions, willing to take them. If you don't answer everything now, certainly you can put them in the chat or send me by email and I will get back to you.
Thank you. Should I stop sharing now or do I go to the next page?
Oh yeah, the next page is just an overview of various agencies that are involved with safeguarding within your county. So quite happy to end questions. I should, well done, I nearly forgot the most important thing there. The 2025 LTA National Safeguarding Conference on Saturday, the 4th of October. It's our national conference. We've got nearly, we've got over 600 people signed up for it. There's a link there, there's a QR code there. I do encourage you to sign up. There's some great information at the conference. Meet the safeguarding team, workforce deployment, really, really good opportunity to meet the head coaches, both in paddle and tennis, about the deployment coaches, about the qualifications, because there are always many issues around grace periods, that questions need to be answered. Survivors panel, people, that's really interesting and engaging, and sadly to have to listen to what people have been through, but it does promote safeguarding and the relevance of safeguarding. We've got some coach reflection there. It's about a coach that has been sanctioned, did something wrong, he's been sanctioned, and it takes you through the process. The actual coach is going to give a presentation there. Lucy Faithful Foundation and Craft for Us, about parental engagement as well. So there are some really good subjects there. You don't have to sign up and listen to everything on the day. By signing up, it means you can listen to the recorded sessions at a later date as well. So we're the only sport that is doing that national conference. I know other sports are going to follow, but it is a good opportunity to find out some more about what we are doing and about safeguarding in general. Thank you, Janice. Nearly forgot the most important thing there.
That's it. I'll stop sharing the screen then for a moment.
Yeah.
Okay. Bring everyone back. So thank you so much, Stuart. And that's brilliant, and that update. Are you happy for me to share those slides with the people?
Yes, yeah, no problem at all. Yeah.
Yeah, and Jane, will we be sharing your slides?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Any
okay,
questions?
yeah. Okay. Any questions to Stuart?
Hi, Stuart. This is Rob Slater from Mepham Tennis Club. Thanks for the presentation. Registered sex offenders, how does a club know any new member who's joining, whether they are a registered sex offender or not?
You don't. Unfortunately, you don't. We normally, someone in a club will let us know or let the club know. Some of the registered sex offenders have actually gone to a club and disclosed that they have a criminal conviction and they are under restrictions. And they're the two main avenues for identifying a registered sex offender. that means that and with the club go into a process of risk assessments, because a registered sex offender under human rights has a right to continue to play, but under the right restrictions and environment. You have to get their engagement to enforce those restrictions. And then if you don't, as an organisation, and certainly we've had an issue at the National Tennis Centre, we have banned certain people that have been attending there because of organisational risk. But it's quite an involved process where we can advise you to engage with the police. Every registered sex offender has a protection officer as well within the police. You have to engage that. There's confidentiality about information that's disclosed and what you can share. It can be quite a minefield, but certainly we're becoming more and more averse to dealing with that issue.
Okay, yeah. So if a sex offender joined, he or she's under no obligation to declare that.
Again, it depends on their conditions that they have from their sexual harm prevention order. If it isn't said that they have to disclose it, no.
Right. Okay. And sorry, just to ask a second question. No, it's great that the numbers are coming down, but utopia would be nil, but it'd be unrealistic, because I think if I had nil, then I'd be worried that things aren't being reported.
You're absolutely right. I can remember I started with the LTA for 2 years in the Southwest, and for the first 2 years I had nil referrals from Cornwall, and it was obvious that the promotion was lacking down there, protocols weren't in place. So if you've got nil, there's a worry.
Yeah, thank you.
Any more questions for Stuart?
Janice, I think there's a question in the chat from Nick at Crescent.
Do you want me to say it? Would it help?
Yeah, that'd be
good. Go on, Nick.
Okay, probably easier. You mentioned volunteers and the difficulty of them engaging in, particularly around safeguarding training, mainly through time, not through lack of interest. Is there something that is readily available to go to share with, for example, your existing committee members? Is there something that we can go through that just sort of covers that off for us?
Yes, there is. There's a training. We send out a link. There's dedicated committee training that we expect all committees to complete, and that's going to be updated next year as well. So there is a link where committee training can be undertaken. I'd say at leisure, but it is a mandatory requirement for the safeguarding standards that committee members do the training.
Okay, so the follow-up to that would be then, do you send that link out, or do we have to go and find it? And is that a one-off? Do we do it annually? Does it change? What happens?
There's a requirement you do it every 3 years.
All right, okay.
And it's available on the website, LTA website. And I will say, and I will promote the LTA website. There's some great resources on there. It's been enhanced. It's been reviewed. On my own mission, we did get criticism of it previously. It wasn't child friendly as well by the NSPCC. We've evaluated it, we looked at it, and indeed with the YPWAs this year, part of their project was to look at the accessibility of content on that website, which we have enhanced.
Great, that's my question. Thank you very much.
And Nick, can I just jump in to say at MEPM we did the committee training a year and a bit ago, and it was very good. It's a video. If it's the same format, it's a video, and you stop all the way through and talk about it. It is good, and that more than anything, rather than safeguarding being pushed to one person and they own it, it kind of felt that the whole committee shared and engaged with it. you know, and it just helps kind of raise the profile. So I'm an advocate of
Yeah,
that training.
I do believe we've actually done it. I need to check that we actually minuted that we did it, which I think would probably help us.
Yeah.
I just wondered if it's changed or wherever it is. So I'll go back and have a look. But if not, we could just redo it. It doesn't hurt to redo it a second time, to be quite honest with you.
Robert's got his hand up.
Yes, thank you, Janet. Stuart, I'm a schools exam invigilator, and every year we have to go through a lot of online safeguarding changes where they highlight what is new for a particular year. Is this something that you could do for us so that we know what's changed from one year to another? Because I did my committee training, I think, about 2 years ago. There may be more things I need to share with them.
What I will say is our website is updated, and you can identify when training has been updated.
Then it's my mistake for not checking it. I'm sorry.
No problem. No problem at all. But yeah, and
I'll share that.
in any case, sorry.
Yeah, please, Janet. Thank you.
And in any case, you know, we review that website annually, because legislation does change, policies change, trends change. So that is something that it's part of our governance within our safeguarding team, that is reviewed on an annual basis. And again, I would say previously that hasn't happened.
Great to hear the LTA keeping that side of their website up to date. Yeah, so I'll share with my follow-up email. I will share these links to these various places for you all.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So if there are any more questions for Stuart before we pass to Jane?
I just sorry, I'm hoarding these questions here, but it's more of a comment, a couple of comments that often in our teams, little WhatsApp groups have been set up, and we've now said that any WhatsApp groups exclude anyone under the age of 18. It has to solely go via the parent. So historically, sometimes the parent says, well, just include my child as long as I'm on it. But we've now we've made that guideline to take that away, because you've lost control of that number once it's on that group. And the second thing I was going to mention was raising it as a profile to club members is probably our biggest challenge, is because you know, we're a nice little country club. It doesn't happen at Mepham. It does happen at Mepham, and it to raise that, and I want, you know, it to kind of say that we've continuously banged the drum to say that policies can only go so far, but you know, you really want the culture there that any member or parent who feels uncomfortable should be kind of alerting a safeguarding officer. So that's kind of my challenge. Sorry, I'm hoarding the session here.
No, Rob, that's really, really useful. I see that Stuart's just put a guide in the chat. Again, great resources from the Active Partnership. You know, there are a lot of resources out there that can give you guidance, because social media is an emerging threat, no doubt about it. And again, all seen it on WhatsApp groups. The content may not be tennis orientated and can go off track, certainly. So yeah, and again, what coaches really do fall foul of that, giving their numbers out one-to-one comment without parental knowledge, and it gets them into trouble, because when parents find out, they do tell us, and they can be subject to sanction. And it isn't something that we see very often with coaches.
It's not just coaches, Stuart. It's like team captains. No. You know, it's team captains.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. You're quite right.
We put our safeguarding officer on those groups, so she can see exactly what's on there.
And that's part of our standards, is that a club should have one or two people that are dedicated to have an overview of a club WhatsApp. the content as well of that.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for your input. That's been brilliant. So
Thank you. Thank you. Really nice meeting you.
Thank you, Stuart, for joining us, and of course, and Stuart, thank you, Stuart, for sharing that link as well, which I'll share with everyone with the follow-up. Thank you. So now we're going to pass over to Jane Parish, who's our County Welfare Officer, Safeguarding Officer. So Jane will give us an update in the areas that she's been working on. So over to you, Jane.
Thank you. James, you all right to share my slides with everyone? Just before I start, I just want to give you a little bit of background, because I do not profess to be an expert in risk assessments, God forbid. But my sort of previous, before I came to join Kent Tennis, I actually worked in sport and leisure for about 30 years and local authorities. I've run lots and lots of big events in relation to where we had, say, 8,000 people coming to proms in the park, that sort of thing. So risk assessments for me were part and parcel of my whole job. And anyone who's worked for a local authority know that, you know, they like ticking all the boxes, don't they? So I don't profess to be an expert, but obviously from all those years, you sort of gain little hints and okay. Oh, okay. So one of the things I was going to say, as soon as anyone sort of mentioned risk assessment, this is probably the first thing that everyone thinks, don't they? You know, they're absolute pain in the neck, health and safety gone mad. I don't know how many people have actually said that to me when I've had to talk to them, and that we don't need any, we're just a small club. And unfortunately, as Stuart just alluded, because litigation and everything else now is getting so big and all the legalities behind stuff, unfortunately we do have to have risk assessments, and I know that they can be a pain in the neck to have to do, but it is something that everyone has to think about. So it's really, really important. So just another next slide, please. And one of the things is that if you know, it's far better to have cover in place in case, like Stuart's going back, an accident or an incident in your club, because that is the first thing they will ask for, and your insurance provider is definitely the first thing they will ask for. Certainly where I was working in the leisure centres, how things have been progressing has been quite surprising, and we've had incidents during COVID where people used to come to the centre, and probably remember the days where you had to have a 1.5 metre wide corridor that you couldn't do. So one of the small leisure centres I was running, we had to have people coming in one way and going out the other through an emergency exit. And somebody put a claim in that they tripped going out the emergency exit. We had no evidence that that person had actually been in the building because they hadn't swiped in. But under litigation, they don't have to prove they had to be in, and we got fined £16,000. Which was a real eye-opener. You know, it's absolutely shocking. So, you know, we do have risk assessment, but we didn't have a risk assessment for that particular bit going out the emergency exit. Yeah. So, but it does help reduce the potential for accidents and, you know, at the venue. So we're trying to promote this whole safer venue for all, not just from accident, but also from safeguarding point of view. And I don't want to frighten people, but depending on the type of venue or event you're running, you could face criminal charges, because there is that sort of litigation, and eventually it could go right up to corporate manslaughter, which is a big thing to think about, but it is there. So unfortunately, it is something that can happen, that we will have to think about, especially if you're running big events. And obviously, I don't know in terms of what type of events that you're running at your venues. The LTA, obviously, most of you will all have the Howden LTA as your insurance provider. And they are offering clubs on the website. If you go on it, it will give you the link where you can go and do the LTA risk assessment, which could lead to lower insurance costs if you haven't got risk assessments in place already. And I've put the link there, so when we share the slides, you'll be able to click on it to see. So, Janice, can you give me the next one, please? Okay, so when most people think, oh, you know, where the most accidents occur is actually in the home. They're the most, followed by the workplace. But sports clubs also are quite high. I think they're about 4th on the list. And all of those, most accidents and injuries occur from slips, trips and falls. I mean, if anyone knows Siobhan in our office, she trips over anything. It doesn't matter what you, how big a space you have, she'll trip over it. Because 9 times out of 10, people are on their phones and they're looking where they're going and they trip over stuff. You know, you think about just walking down the road and you see youngsters, they're on the phone, they step out in front of you, you know, they don't look because they're so engrossed as they are with social media or whatever it is. But that is the majority of things that happen. Obviously, there are around sports clubs, you know, contact sports clubs like rugby, they get far more severe injuries. But, you know, sports clubs do, you know, if you think of your courts, people will break their ankle or fall over, might do their wrist, break the collarbone or whatever. But it's all down to those slip, trips and falls. And depending on your venue, one of the probably the hardest is people leave their bags everywhere on the floor. That's one of the biggest things that kids and everyone fall over because bags are just left. And very rarely a venue's got the sort of facilities where people can go and store stuff safely. So it is something that is a bit of a pain, that, you know, trying to encourage people to make sure they don't leave them where people can trip over them. Okay, next one, please. Okay, so where on earth would we start if you're trying to do a risk assessment? It's like a minefield, but actually there's 5 little steps that you can take. There's a lot of tools out there that can help and everything. So if we go to the next slide, Janice. Okay, so number 1 is to identify the hazards that could happen. And this is probably the most difficult because people think, what's a hazard? So what is a hazard? Could anyone sort of think what a hazard could be?
Anything that can cause harm.
So, yeah, but when you're sort of doing a risk assessment, it is very much about identifying what that hazard could be. So it could be, I don't know, take a really severe one, which is terrible. You know, you could have a car park where there's kids or people moving about, and the actual harm could be potentially a very serious accident, being knocked over by a car, or actually fatality. And a lot of time people think, oh my life, I don't want to write that down. But actually that's what the hazard is. You're identifying where it is and what that hazard could be. And as part of that, it's really important you do inside and outside, because lots of times it's really easy to think, because probably the courts are probably the safest, I would say, depending on your venue, than inside. So you do need to do both. And it's then identifying all the people that might be harmed and how they might be harmed. And, you know, things like visitors, players, coaches, volunteers. Don't forget somebody if they do. And it's looking at what could those risks do and what do we need to do to put some controls in there. Oh, don't let my internet now go down. And then this is the most important, going back to what Stuart said earlier, we have to record. Can you go back? We have to. Can you go back one, Janice? Sorry.
Right.
Okay, yeah. You have to record the findings. It's really important that that risk assessment is written down, because obviously if the insurers ask for it, you might have done all the work, but if you haven't then put it in writing, then, you know, it's not much point not doing it. And then we just review it and update it where necessary. So I just want to reiterate, a hazard is a hazard in anything with potential to cause harm to somebody. Yeah. Next one, please, James. Okay. So where you start? I'd actually just walk around the club. It might be that you think, okay, the club might be big, then you might just want to start in the office if you've got an office. You know, start something small to build the confidence up. But ask others to help. It's really important. You know, your volunteers, you know, you don't have to do it all yourself. Get others to help, because the more eyes looking, the better. The risk that other people don't. You know, we mustn't dismiss that. You just recently had the case said there was a trip hazard, and it was something here that's actually it was on the outside of the court. If someone was right at the back, they could go, that's a trip at the back. I would have made that and fenced that off or put something over it rather than leave it. But I went through that with the referee, because for me, I could sense that somebody could fall over. And if Siobhan had been there, she probably would have fallen over, but everything. But I think as well, take photographs of things that are potential risks. Because again, when you go, it's on the side of the venue, you could forget stuff, you might want to start stuff, have to come back to it, because you may not want to spend 8 hours doing a risk assessment, you might want to do little areas at a time. So again, just take photographs, they can help. But I think the most important is that last bit. Don't feel frightened to identify severe hazards or risks. Because you think about a potential fire or a missing child could lead to a fatality, and I know I don't want to say this, but that can happen, and if someone gets trapped, they could potentially die. So those hazards and risks are really, really important to identify. Okay, next one, please, Dana. Okay, this is obviously quite difficult evaluating the risk, because how severe is that risk? What's the likelihood it could happen? But part of what I always try to do when I start as well, you've probably already got good stuff in place already. It may not be written down, but you've probably got stuff. So start and think, okay, we've got this in place. Do we just need to? Is it evaluating it correctly or not? Is there something that somebody else might think about that we've missed or whatever? But there's no industry practice, and you'll get that on the LTA website, or I use the health and safety website a lot. I know that on that it tends to be more sort of a little office. You can go on that and it'll give you hints on what to think about in an office. Not pulling off a fire from a height. You might need to have a little step ladder. Don't stand on a chair or whatever it is. There's some very, very simple stuff that can help you. And then obviously from what you've got, you can then look, okay, do we need to review it and then get a bit? Do we need to put it in a better formal setting? We probably all got a is that often the manufacturers will actually write things down, and this is really important. That have we ever had any incidents or near misses around this which can help identify the risks? And near misses are something that are really, really important, because if there has been a near miss, if I go back to the car park scenario where you think, oh gosh, that could have been really serious, somebody could have just got run over or whatever, you might then need to think of, okay, how are we going to manage this a little bit better in that car park? It could be like mega tight or whatever. And we know what it's like when we've got the junior program on, parents coming in and going, and so it might be there, okay, that near miss was a warning. So what do we need to do to try and mitigate that we don't have those near misses again in that sort of area? Okay, Janice, next one, please. Okay, so you'll find that there's quite a lot of templates to help you. I particularly like this one, and I use it quite a lot, which is on the Health and Safety Exec website. And the reason I like it is because it's quite methodical, but I also like it because if you look at the last 3 what needs to be carried out, the act, but we've done it, we just put the date when you've done it, So, I mean, I use this in our office, so I've used this for our office risk assessment and everything. But there's also one from the LTA for safeguarding. So, Janice, next slide, please. So this is the risk assessments on the LTA around competitions. And it is sort of it's all about risk assessment for safeguarding for kids and vulnerable adults. I use this as well, and I use this for our county cup teams and everything else, where they could be going away, staying in a hotel, you've got all the travel, everything. And it's really good because the LTA, if you look to put the hazards down on the left-hand column, who is at risk? Children. Somewhere else might be adults or whatever, because it's obviously this is only sort of the first line. But then there's also little control measures in there that are hints and tips for you that you can use. So, you know, it's about going through them and thinking about your own place and think, oh yeah, well, we have that. Oh no, we haven't. So what do we need to do? So this is a really, really valuable risk assessment template to use as well from the LTA, specifically if you've got any youngsters, say, going away to play at another club, and, you know, there might be having parents taking them in the cars or however you're doing it. I would use this risk assessment. Okay, next one, Donna. So the most common mistakes that people make when they use templates is you mustn't just copy it. You know, you've got to, I don't know if it sounds obvious, you must put your club venue event name on it. That's really important. But use what's written, like we just talked about in the LTA template, as a guidance. You must amend and put your own words where possible. Recently, I think Stuart and I were looking at a risk assessment that was done in the club here. We've gone through that, and where each of the little guidance notes, what they put, yes, yes, yes. Well, that's not actually going through what's written there and thinking about what's happening in your own club. You need to relate that to what you're doing in your club, yeah? Because there could be things on the template that you've identified that you need to add. Okay, so that's really important. And as I said, if you said you're going to action something by a particular date, just make sure you record it, you know, because that's quite key as well. Okay, next slide, please, Janet. So what's the difference between a risk assessment and safeguard and risk assessment? That's quite a difficult question to answer. From my point of view, a risk assessment, I sort of look at it probably assessing more operational risks, like tripping over a loose paving slab or a bag or whatever. Safeguarding is very, very specific to children under 18 and vulnerable adults, whether they're taking part in an activity or using your facilities or just coming in for a visit. It's all around that. There can be overlaps. And I mean, I'll put one there about cleaning fluids, but I mean, that's not, you know, but that to me, that's really more an operational stuff, but that is. So, you know, if you've got cleaning fluids, you know, whatever, you know, they should really be locked away in a cupboard somewhere, because children can't access them because they could then drink them or whatever, you know, that's a hazard and could poison themselves or whatever. So, yeah, it's stuff like that. And one of the things I get asked all the time is, can I have one risk assessment to cover both areas? Now, again, depending on what the event is, I personally say yes, you can, because I did that for the county champs for our welcome desk, that I combined the two. Operationally, we had a different risk assessment because Bromley Tennis Centre operates the centre, and they did one which I helped input into. But we also had a welcome desk one where we had the volunteers, the children coming in and everything else. And I put that into one risk assessment rather than me sending two risk assessments to the volunteers that were helping on the desk. So, yeah. Next slide, please.
Want to move on?
Yes, please, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's not working.
Oh, is it not?
It won't work today. No,
okay.
It's not moving on the last
not
one.
Playing games?
No, don't know why.
Okay.
There we are. Work now.
Okay. So these are things, if I was specifically looking at safeguard and risk assessment, of the areas that I would look at. Risks of incidents arising from unsupervised children. Now, one of the biggest things that I come across is that lots of clubs and venues have the under 13s policy where children shouldn't be left at a club unaccompanied. Now, often coaches don't know that, and then they've got back-to-back you know, lessons with kids. They often then leave the child who had the first lesson because the parents late picking them up, and they get on with the second one. Obviously that's really important, that they should know that, and the Stuart said they should have that in their own risk assessments. But equally, from a club's point of view, we need to make sure as parents know that kids under 13, if that's your policy, you might have one under 11, I don't know. It's really important that that is there, because obviously there can be incidents where children are left unsupervised completely. We've had stories where children have, wandered off. Again, worst case scenario, they could get run over depending on where you live, or abducted, or whatever, so that is really, really important, that you do try and make sure that that is linked to your policy. Yeah? Emergency medical issues and accidents are obviously part of the risk assessment, which is the LTA one. So that how to deal with it if they're obviously going away on a tournament, whatever, you might need consent from parents, all those sorts of things kicked in then, that if there a serious accident, the risk of abuse and bullying, again, that will all link with some of the safeguarding tools that the LTA have got and everything. Inappropriate photography, film and social media activity. Hopefully the clubs will know that there's sort of templates and consent forms that you need to get parents. We do from a county point of view that all the children have to sign that, and so do their parents. Inappropriate transportation method. Okay, it's a biggie. It's really, really difficult, isn't it? If you've got youngsters going to play in another club, how they're going to get there if their parents can't take them. But equally, obviously, it's really important, and coaches know this, that they shouldn't be taking kids in the cars. So again, that's sort of all around there. Missing children, that links with number one. Kids suddenly go walkies. We all know some parents are really, really good, and some parents are not so good. So, if you've got your risk assessment in terms of what to do if a child goes missing, and have a procedure in place on what you do, that's quite key as well. And there's a really good guidance from the NSPCC in relation to a flowchart on what to do in the event of a child being missing. And I think the LTA has one as well, I think, if I remember right, Stuart, don't they? Okay. And then inappropriate use of the changing facilities, that's another one, obviously, because most people haven't got the luxury that they've got enough changing whatever facilities, that they can have specific ones for kiddies or whatever, and no adults in there. So they're the types of things that I will be thinking about in terms of safeguarding risk assessment. So next slide. Okay. So how often should you do one? $1 million question. I personally would try to review it every 12 months and record that I've reviewed it. But again, it's really important, if you've had any near misses, to review it then. Don't wait for 12 months until to review any near misses. So going back to the car park scenario, I would have gone back and think, okay, on that risk assessment, have I got anything in the car park? Oh God, I haven't. I need to put it in. Yeah. And as I put, review if you have an accident or an incident, this may be a requirement from your insurers. Now, I don't want to scare people, but there's a lot of legislation around how long you should keep things related to children for accidents. Does anybody know how long you have to keep them for? Okay. In theory, if there's an accident that's happened with a child, and you're supposed to keep that until they are 21. So 3 years is the minimum. So if they were 7, I've got to do my maths. If they were 18, you've got to keep it 3. But if they were 6, you've got to keep 21. They have the right up to the age of 21 to make a claim, which is shocking. Absolutely shocking. But that's the law. So normal accidents is 3 years, although some insurers want them remaining for 6 years. So again, you sort of think about all this paperwork, it's quite frightening, and insurers are doing that because they're obviously getting too many more people claiming for accidents with these no win, no fee type scenarios. So yeah, okay. And then that's the other question that I wanted to pose is, should you do a risk assessment for every event you hold? That's a really difficult question to answer as well. I think it's about how comfortable you are. If if you're sort of running regular tournaments or whatever, as long as you go and review it, I don't think that you need to have one every year. I know the LTA, and I was a bit shocked by this, that I went on their website and looked at their venue event risk assessments, some of which dated to 2021, and they haven't been updated or reviewed since then, because the onus is on the venue to go and review it and update it. And I'm thinking, you're telling me since 2022 things haven't changed, you know, really? You know, so some of them were really, really big centres and everything. That's under the insurance and Howdens. Personally, I would probably go and review it if it's little, but if it was going to be a big event, so like county champs, I would do one every year. I know they're every 12 months anyway, but I would do, because there are things that happen and that you learn every year. So I personally would, but I think it's something that you would have to decide yourself and what your policy would be. Yeah. Okay. So next one, Janice. Okay. So just a summary. Try and use the 5 steps as a starting point. Think about utilising other people to help, because they're so important. As I said, you know, more eyes the better. Look at what you've already got. So, you know, and if you've had any previous near misses, use templates and use them as a guidance. Don't be frightened to identify severe hazards. And I know it's a bit, you know, and you want to sort of hide behind it, but actually it's far better to identify them, because again, if the insurers ever ask, it shows how much you're on top of it in your culture. And review when you need to, but I would say every 12 months and record that you've done it. Yeah. Well, I hope that wasn't too boring for everybody. Has anyone got any questions? I might not be able to answer them, but
Is there anything in the chat? Let's just check if there's anything in the chat there.
Stuart wants to ask a question.
No, can I add in support? I don't know if you can hear me. I'm just, I see me now. I can give you 3 examples within the last 2 years where there's been finding of negligence, where risk assessments weren't completed at tennis venues. The first one was a social event, and it was a barbecue, and the club accommodation burnt down, and the insurance company refused to pay out because there was no risk assessment in place for that particular event, and that was fire extinguishers, training, etc. that should have been in place. The next example is a tennis club that was next to a cricket pitch. A 84-year-old lady was departing from the tennis club. A cricket ball came across and hit her on the head. She suffered brain damage, and the family took out litigation. There was a finding of negligence against both the cricket club and the tennis club. Tennis club, there was no risk assessment. There was no mutual communication between the cricket club and the tennis club. The fence that was up was found to be ineffective, which it was. There was no communication in newsletters, no signage in place, and so there was a finding there. The other one, which is a more serious one in tennis, we had an abduction of an 8-year-old boy who was taken and sexually abused. It was a 2-court rural location with public toilets on the outside of the courts, 2 coaches, qualified coaches, a level 2 and a level 3 coach. A young boy wanted to go to the toilet during the session. The coach said, off you go, out of sight, went to the toilet, and he was taken and sexually abused. Fortunately, the coaches did act appropriately. CCTV was found, and the perpetrator was apprehended, and he subsequently has been convicted. But the family took litigation against the coaches, and again, it was all around risk assessment at the hearing. What was in place in your program? Why did you allow a child to go to the toilet unsupervised? So there's 3 examples there within our sport that I have come across within 2 to 3 years. So risk assessments are really, really important for your club. thinking about your activities, and communication is often your greatest tool. Doesn't cost anything, but in newsletters and signage, really, really important. Because again, if you do nothing, something will happen. If you do something, it rarely happens.
Can I just ask a very quick question about being on a multi-use site? So, for example, our tennis club is part of a rugby club and a cricket club, and that's owned by an overall group. I won't bore you with the details. So my view is that I cover off all bases. So, for example, you were talking earlier about the car park. We don't own the car park, but we do use the car park. So I would include that in our risk assessment, although technically speaking, my view is also that the overarching club should have their own risk assessment as well, and they're the ones that should put in the if there's a problem in the car park, that they're responsible for it. But I cover it off in our own risk assessment. That puts a lot of emphasis on us having to do a risk assessment for stuff that isn't technically part of our club, but I do it just to cover us on all bases. It gets kind of blurred of where the responsibility is. I'm not sure if this is actually a question. It's just reassurance that we're actually doing the right thing.
From my point of view, I would be doing that, but I'd also be trying to work with the other clubs to say, you know, together we need to do it. Is it not? Are they not sort of open to that?
No.
Okay.
But
very diplomatic.
But in your risk assessment, one of your contingencies can be, we've asked the management organisation for that information, your risk assessment. It's called a memorandum of understanding. And you ask for that information about risk assessment. If you get nothing back, at least you've asked.
Documented.
Jane, it's Rob again. Just one thing. Sadly, I come from an insurance background, so the bar is that much higher for when it comes to children. So the responsibility of clubs, coaches, etc., is that the bar is that much higher in legal terms for the duty of care. The second thing I was just going to ask is, as part of a coach's accreditation, are they given guidance and training? Are they obliged to do health and safety?
I don't think so.
I'll ask that.
I'll
answer that. They do get training, but I'll be quite honest, it is insufficient, and it's something that we are addressing as a safeguarding team next year and having an input, because there's recognition that this is an area that's lacking. Coaches haven't got or don't feel confident in writing risk assessments. They don't understand the importance of writing risk assessments, and at this moment in time, who can blame them? Because they need that education.
Okay, so at the present time, the club kind of takes ownership and works with the club, with the coach.
Yes.
I mean, you can work with them. I mean, if you've got regular coaches, I'll be sitting down trying to help them, you know, because as Stuart said, if they haven't got that sort of knowledge, and it can be really scary, isn't it? If you're trying to think, God, where do I start, you know? So I would try to sort of help and work together with them.
Okay, thank you.
Has anyone else got any questions before we end our meeting today to Stuart or Jane?
Just a really quick one with Stuart, just documenting safeguarding situations for just mild ones, I mean, unfortunately. I mean, there's risk assessment forms, but obviously you wouldn't necessarily use that for or would you, for the safeguarding, you know, just an incident, somebody took a photo, they were new to the club and hadn't signed the disclaimer for their children. It was all dealt with and it's all resolved, but obviously you just want to have some sort of record of that, and it feels a bit funny writing it in a book and then funny having it in a you know, a folder, but on the other computer folder. On the other hand, obviously it needs to be.
I would suggest that there's a liability that you record it. It's a low level incident, and yes, digitally, obviously confidentially, password secure, you record that incident, you keep a log, because you might only have a small picture of that incident, and it could escalate. Someone might have a medical problem, mental health issue over that problem, and you don't know when it can come back, and further issues are asked. Or a particular problem that you're addressing, it only might be part of the jigsaw, and there are other concerns around that issue.
So I could put it in a folder on my computer, but as long as it was password.
Yes, I would. I certainly would record that.
Okay.
And keep it for it should be. We say 7 years.
Yes, I thought it was 7. Yeah. Thanks. Okay.
Thank you, Tracy. So any more questions, then please do feel free to pop an email to Jane or Stuart, and then they can answer them direct for you. I will put their details in the follow-up email. So if you go away after today and you think of something else, feel free to email either one of them with your question. That would be great. And I'd like to say thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Jane, for that great presentation, and to Stuart for that great chess presentation. If anyone's got a very, very good news story they want to share and are burning to share it with us, then do share it now. It's your last moment before we end.
Just before you close, Janice, while we've got Tracy Carson on it. Tracy, we've got our league meeting tomorrow, the Ashford District one. Do you have a pen with you there? Can you just take my telephone number down and give me a quick ring after this?
Yeah.
Okay, it's 07787. 916994.
916994. Okay.
Anyway, thank you everyone. Very informative.
Brilliant. So, thank you for joining us. Our next meeting is going to be on Tuesday, the 14th of October, where our Siobhan Butler from our team, the competitions coordinator, will be joining us for a discussion on TTP and LTA competition planner and anything competition related, club competitions. So do please join us on the 14th of October. The link will be circulated in the newsletter and via another follow-up nearer the time. So thank you everyone, and look forward to seeing you in October.
Thank you, Janice.
Thank you.
Thank you.